I'm Marilyn Weston, and you're definitely getting it straight from a woman's perspective. And as promised, Darren Farwell of the Farwell Group is here. And what have you have for us this morning, Darren?
Well, Marilyn, after I was finished last week, I was listening to Edward Avazian from the Hearing Aid Sources Centers, and he reminded me of something that we say regularly on From a Woman's Perspective. It's probably a kind of a theme. Edward reminded us that you don't know what you don't know. And my story today is about a not well-known and quite frankly, rarely even talked about estate planning detail called contingent liability. Now, the story of Doris's Registered Retirement Income Fund in itself isn't really a happy story at all. I mean, number one, there was a real financial cost to not knowing in this case, and it was a result of not being clear about exactly what should be done when after her husband's death. That ended up being very important. That combined with their lack of knowledge as a couple about contingent liability. Well, those two things together, in a way, quite specifically, cost their estate and therefore directly reduced the legacy to their children unnecessarily by $54,000.
Oh, my goodness.
Not chump change. Yeah.
No.
So, the happy story, because I know we like to have happy stories, the only happy story in this one really is for our listeners, because our listeners will now know that if you take action, you can avoid the potential for this kind of unnecessary tax hit by appointing contingent beneficiaries for your registered plans. So first, the story as it unfolded. Doris and Carl had been married for a very long time. They were both to be 85 years old in 2018, in fact. But early in the year 2018, Carl passed away. Of course, prudently, he had named his spouse, Doris, as the beneficiary of his Registered Retirement Income Fund. That's the good news, as the balance of Carl's RIF transferred tax-free quickly and easily to Doris's RIF, as it should have. But here's the rub. Doris had, of course, named her husband, Carl, as her beneficiary, and rightly so. But now he was deceased. Doris was not advised to move ASAP to name new beneficiaries, nor had she set up a contingent beneficiary before Carl's death. So again, as the story unfolds further, only a few months after losing her husband of, forever number of years, Doris passed away as well. I'm sorry for the family, and to make matters worse, because there was no contingent beneficiary named, it was costly. A contingent beneficiary is someone to whom the funds of the registered plan would flow if the primary beneficiary, in this case her husband, predeceases and could not receive the funds. It would have made sense, of course, to name her two children as contingent beneficiaries. Then, when Doris passed on, the RIF money would have gone to them, her two children, quickly and easily, and most importantly, avoiding probate. Instead, because Doris didn't move immediately upon her husband's death to name new beneficiaries, and furthermore, because there were no other contingent beneficiaries named, the funds from her Registered Retirement Income Fund, a large one, had to be paid into her estate. That means those assets had to go through probate, and probate cost $54,000. That's money that didn't have to be spent, and it's money that went straight to the government and out of the pockets of her kids. That's no doubt not what Doris would have chosen if she had known. So the only happy story in this whole thing is this doesn't have to happen to any of our listeners. Speak to your trusted advisor now that you know. Take action. Check whether naming a contingent beneficiary for your registered plans might save a lot of unnecessary tax for those people or causes that you wish to leave a legacy for. Now, Marilyn, we do on an ongoing basis post these kind of tips and ideas regularly on our Facebook page. The Facebook page is the Farwell Group. And we also have a guide of this kind of tip We have an estate planning guide that if listeners would like to phone in, we'd be glad to send a hard copy and snail mail. Not as easy these days with what's going on with the post office, but we can also email a copy.
So an estate planning guide can get people started. You can save thousands of dollars just by knowing about a contingent beneficiary, which I've never heard of, so thanks for the heads up. And if someone wants to talk to you about their financial plan, I always believe that it's never wrong to have a second opinion. And you're always saying it's not too late or too soon to start a plan. So I encourage our listeners to be proactive. If you want the estate planning guide, or if you wish to speak to Darren, I have his phone number, 416-863-7501. You can call, you can ask your questions, you can protect your future, and it looks like you can save thousands of dollars if perhaps you would want to have a beneficiary, a contingent beneficiary. Did I say that correctly?
You said it correctly. It is contingent beneficiary. Now, the number of circumstances in which one would actually use a contingent beneficiary are limited. It's not likely to be something that comes up, but if it does, as we saw from Doris's story, it can save a lot of money.
You don't know what you don't know, and you can know more if you speak to Darren Farwell and the Farwell Group, or visit the Facebook site, the Farwell Group. And your contact information is on my website, as always, Darren, marilyns.ca, Zoomer, and sponsor expert list. So it's easy to access. Take down the number, 416-863-7501. Get the information you need and perhaps save thousands of dollars from the tax man. So thank you, Darren. I look forward to learning more next week.
You're welcome, Marilyn.
So next, Dr. Faye Weisberg talks vaginal health, and then Dr. Betty Rosendahl explains how to restore hormone balance, and then Dr. Vivian Brown explains stress, telomeres, and longevity. So lots more to learn, all from a woman's perspective right here on Zoomer Radio.